Scott Jennings delivers a reality check on the woke left, exposing the woke failure that Democrats won't admit. Now, Scott Jennings pulls no punches as he calls out woke policies and their devastating consequences. Okay, so with a lot of stuff going on as Scott Jennings makes his appearance on the PBD podcast and stuff with sharp analysis on how the woke agenda failed, and Scott Jennings challenges the left's narrative and demands accountability. So here's the latest clip with Scott Jennings on the PBD podcast, exposing the woke left and outright destroying them. So let me know your thoughts about this. It comes below. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
Wall Street Journal drops another story. A poll. Democrats' approval rating craters to 35-year low.
Wow.
Not a 5-year low, not a 10-year low. We're talking about a 35-year low.
And they're not even in charge right now.
How much worse can it get than this? Normally, when somebody takes office, their rating goes lower and you have an opportunity to come up.
Yeah.
Not for Democrats.
Yep.
Normally, I mean, he has all this stuff that's going on with Epstein. The polls keep favoring him more and more and more. And so the poll comes out, revealed that 63% of registered voters view Democrats unfavorably compared to 33% with a positive impression, marking the lowest since 1990. While Trump's polling stands at 46, his poll at 52. Higher than 30% at this point in his first Republicans polling is 7 points unfavorable. And if election were held today, 46%. Quebec Democrats, 43% for Republican. Democratic pollster John Alone, who helped conduct the surveys, the Democratic brain is so bad that they don't have the credibility to be a critic of Trump or the Republican Party. Let me read this what you want. The Democrats are so bad that they don't have the credibility to be a critic of Trump. You don't have moral authority to think bad about Trump. Party of trust of Democrats on official by 10 points. Immigration by 17 points. Half illegal immigrants by 7 points. Release from terrorists by 17 points. We'll get to that in a minute. The Republicans support the issue and until they reconnect with real voters and working people on who they're for and what their economic message is, they're going to have problems. Thoughts on the story.
Well, Democrats, because of the Biden presidency, because they lied about Joe Biden's condition, because they lead the country about the inflationary impacts of the policies, have dug themselves the deepest hole they've ever been in the history of the party. That's number one. Number two, cultural radicalism. I mean, when the hills you're willing to die on are boys and girls sports, paying for transgender surgeries of inmates, which Kamala Harris had in the last election. When you're willing to die on these hills, when you're willing to go and say Maryland man unfairly deported back to his home country. I mean, when you're willing to die on all these 80-20 hills, eventually your approval rating wind up, I'm no mathematician, but around 20.
Yeah, exactly.
They're getting there. And so this hole they've dug themselves in, like if I can't trust you not to put a boy in my daughter's locker room, why would I talk to you about taxation policy or inflation or tariffs or anything else? You're trying to put a boy in my girl's locker room.
That's right.
Why? And so I agree with Anzalone. By the way, he's a serious pollster. He's been around the Democratic Party forever. This is a serious guy. He's got it dead right. They have no credibility.
Is he himself?
Yes, he's one of the most sought-after Democratic pollsters. The Wall Street Journal poll, they get a Democrat and a Republican, two serious people. They do the poll together. Anzalone knows Democrats. He knows campaigns, and what he said right there is dead right.
Wow.
Dead.
Yeah, the fact that Scott Jennings had to be the one to say it out loud just shows how far the mainstream has become. Now, the woke left is completely detached from reality, and someone finally gave them the reality check needed that they've been avoiding. Now, for years, this ideology has been propped up by the media spin, college campuses, and even corporate boardrooms and stuff, including Disney, while the average person has just tried to make sense of the chaos. And now the house of cards is collapsing sharply, and people are just simply tearing it down. And it's also long overdue. Now, every time someone on the left pushes some new cultural rules, it actually backfires. They overplayed their hand with identity politics, with cancel culture, and with the endless obsession over pronouns and oppression hierarchies. And none of this is solving real world problems. You see, America want, safe streets, affordable living, secure borders, not lectures about microaggressions or even social justice theater. But basically, what Jennings is saying is what millions of people are already thinking, that this experiment has failed. It didn't create any unity or progress. It simply created division, resentment, and an entire generation of people afraid to speak the truth.
He is a serious guy.
By the way, when you look at this, Scott, question for you. So this is the net favorability of each party, right? Tom, I need your help on this one here. Up until 2004, if you look at four, for the most part, both of them are positive. Right? And then all of a sudden, Republicans fall. That's obviously under Bush. Obama gets a little bit of a spike in 08, and then he starts falling. And then Biden has a massive crash. And Republicans since 2006 have relatively stayed at that negative 10 number, if you look at that. But what is the difference that caused this go from being positive, everybody was positive, then all of a sudden everybody being negative? How did that happen? Tom, what would you say?
Well, there's two things. There's an erosion of Americans' trust in government. And so when you talk about net favorability of each party, you say, how many of you favor, how many of you unfavor, and what's the difference there? So the Republicans have had a minus 10% favorability. And if you take a look at the core of it, goes in, it started crashing like 04, which is basically Bush's second term, and then stayed down when Obama was elected in 8, reelected in 12, and then only recently did the lines cross. But you take a look at what happened. Starting with Obama's reelection, the Democrat unfavorability, as the average voter is finding out what it really means and what they stand for, putting a boy in my daughter's locker room, what really doesn't work economically. The story of the chart is that even though people have eroded trust of the Republican Party, it has stayed level and picked up just a tick since Obama. However, starting with Obama, the Dems dropped below the line in 08. See that, Pat?
Yeah.
And went, and look at the plummet, because it doesn't work. The Bernie side, the AOC side, the Marxist side, the DEI side does not work, and it's leading to these high negatives. And I have a lot of respect also for Anzalone. He's one of the ones I read and I respect. Also respect Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen. Mark knows what he's doing, and they're seeing the same things. They're seeing the same things. And they're also seeing that you can't look at parties uniquely like this. You have to peel back a little bit. And on issues, the real story is what you read on the issues, is issue by issue, Americans trust Republicans by 10 points on inflation, by 17 points on immigration, by 7 points on tariffs. What else is there, right? So what is eroding it? If the Republicans are leading on that, what is happening here? What's happening here is all of the DEI and the woke fallout has crushed the Democrat Party. Now, we've got a year to pull a madman, like the candidate in New York, I call him madman, and flip the script using the tools of modern communication. What did you call it? The
modern communications ecosystem.
Yeah, the modern communications ecosystem, where you step away from cable, you step away the dominance of 4 channels on TV. Podcasts matter, opinions matter, so many other things are bringing it out. You still have a year for that, and we've seen with Mandami what can happen, Pat, in a short time with the voting, but we got a year to where this gets serious. Next August 1st is where it really gets serious, because everybody that you read about on pollsters will tell you August 1st to October 1st next year is where the independents will move and choose as we go into midterms.
We'll see what happened. Adam, your thoughts on this?
The Democratic Party is a sinking ship, and I'm just so glad that I jumped off it a couple of years ago. I was on it for a little while, Scott. It was a bumpy ride. It was funny. We were at dinner last night. Thank you for a great dinner, PBD. And we ran into Roger Stone, and you're shaking Roger Stone's hand. And Vinny and Roger are doing their, pleasantries. And he said, "Hey, Adam," he goes, "this guy right here is the biggest Donald Trump fan out there." I was like, "Me?" And the reason I know he's joking about that is because once you sort of switch teams and you see what that team was, you're so disgusted by what's going on over there that you can't help but just like look at these idiots over here. And what I'm starting to see is my Democratic
Jamie
friends.
Dimon called them idiots.
Yeah, Jamie Dimon said the following. He said they have big hearts and little brains. And that's what I've experienced. You know, they say when you're young, if you're not a liberal, you have no heart. If you're older and if you're not a conservative, you have no brain. Jamie Dimon is in the thick of
He
things.
couldn't
probably,
say this 5 years ago.
No,
3
exactly.
And that's also reminds me that every time, you know, that was more obvious now is how the woke failure has seeped into politics and stuff. Now, the party of the donkey has allowed itself to be hijacked by activists who live on Twitter, which is now X, and who now flocked over to Blue Sky and make outrage for leadership. But instead of focusing on jobs, the economy, or even national security, they chase clout with the loudest activists and it's coming back to haunt them basically in the polls. Now, they're absolutely right here. When you actually abandon common sense and stuff, basically in favor of ideology, well, it's basically reality will definitely catch up with you, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And if you look at the follow all up with the voter backlash, education recalls, liberal cities turning red, I mean, Americans across the board, including lifelong Democrats, are saying enough is enough. And Scott Jennings hit the nail on the head, which he's about to do right now. Again, with the woke left is more interested in controlling the language than fixing the real issues. Now, they've lost sight of that and of kitchen table concerns because they're too busy policing bathroom signs and trying to redefine words like woman. And that kind of political agenda is not only unserious, but it's also insulting. So, yes, it's no wonder why people like Scott Jennings would actually tear them apart.
Because it's a great case study to see how people react. Scott, your thoughts?
So my comment on what you said is 2 years ago you joined the Republicans. I think in the last 2 to 5 years, really since Trump, but really recently, his branding of the Republican Party as common sense versus, you know, what's the alternative? Uncommon nonsense. Yeah. He has scrambled the ideological deck. It's not really just conservative versus liberal anymore. It's not really just Republican versus Democrat. It's for him, and he talked about it at the inaugural, it's just common sense versus the alternative. And a lot of people who never thought of themselves as Republicans, who never voted, who rarely voted, who don't think of themselves as caring about politics at all, who wouldn't want to be called Democrat or Republican, they love to be behind the guy. Well, that's just a common sense thing.
Yep.
The branding that he put on this is genius because it makes your coalition more elastic. You can bring people in, non-political people, people who don't want to be caught up in the normal red-blue.
Of course.
They love common sense, and that's what he's selling. And by the way, if you look at the polling, it's working. He's got a common sense view on immigration. He's got a common sense view on cultural, radicalism. He's got a common sense view on, well, maybe it would be better if we had tariff policy that was advantaging American workers and not foreign countries. These are common sense concepts. You don't have to be steeped in conservative ideology to go, oh yeah, that sounds right to me. Common sense.
Scott,
beautiful.
When did you flip? Because, Daily Show did a nice little hit piece on you and basically saying that you were very critical of Trump at one point. Just like J.D. Vance, just like myself, just like a lot of other people. What caused you to flip?
Well, I voted Republican my whole life, and I did vote for him 3 times. But like everybody else, I didn't get it. I mean, I've readily admit I did not get it. I did not understand it. I did not get how this guy who hadn't been a Republican was coming along to take over the Republican Party. I did not get it. And so over time, I began to realize what he was doing, and I also began to realize the choice. And, in 2024, for me, there was Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, the idea of common sense versus whatever it is she was selling. And so plus his opposition, the reflexive nature of his opposition to hate and try to delegitimize him on everything he does, I think is terrible for America. They're rooting. You wear that pin? They're rooting against America.
Yeah.
On the tariffs, all April, they were hoping it would fail.
Imagine that.
They're hoping it would fail.
America.
On Iran, when we bombed the missile sites. What's the first thing that happened? We got to impeach him. Yeah, he didn't do that much damage.
Yeah.
The immediate delegitimization of this guy. Every time he does something, they root for America's failure. So does he everything he does, do I like? No politician I'm 100% all the time. But I'll tell you this, I like it that he roots for America. And I hate it that they root against America
Bingo.
just because he did it.
Bingo.
And I think that's why a lot of people are fine with it.
Let me
That's
ask you a
right.
follow.
Yes, he just went scorch earth on that. Now, Scott Jennings didn't just rant. He brought up facts. He pointed out that when the left governs based on feelings and stuff instead of facts, policy collapses basically. And that's not opinion. That's a track record right there, from botched crime policies to gender ideology in schools. Every time the woke left gets its way, regular Americans pay the price. And if you call it out, you're labeled a bigot or even worse. And that kind of bullying, worked for a while, but not anymore. And people are waking up. But he also brought up, on the flip side, about, our president right now. You see, the president, he basically, Jennings didn't always support him and everything, but at the same time, he saw what he was actually doing. A lot of people criticize him, even in the Republican Party and stuff. Okay, but basically, I mean, it's at this point we just hit a cultural breaking point, and voices like him are essential for helping people understand what's really happening and stuff. You see, we're not dealing with a political disagreement anymore, but we're dealing with an ideological movement that tries to silence dissent and shame people into submission, basically. Now, people like Scott Jennings will stand firm and say the obvious truth, where woke politics is a failure and it's time to move on. Okay, and that's just like that, basically common sense.
Follow up on this, because forget about regular people. Talk about the people that you sit down with every single day. I'm going to assume they're not fans of Donald Trump.
No.
Starting with Abby Phillips all the way down that cast of characters. Do they hate Trump? Do they not love America? I mean, you're arguing with these people left and right. What is the common thread with most of these people?
Oh, I think for the left, for the ideological left, the motivating issue for them, and this is the core of the Democratic platform. If Trump is for it, we're against it. If he decided to do something, it inherently must be wrong. And every conversation is framed with that in mind. And so then you debate it out from there. But I think because they hate him personally, all decisions he makes must therefore be attacked or stated that it's going to somehow lead to America's downfall. Tax cuts, tariffs, judges, immigration policy, everything he ever does. Think about the apocalyptic language they use to describe everything. And it doesn't really turn out that way. Tax cuts were good for America. Turns out controlling the border means you can't actually close the border. It turns out the tariffs do give you leverage in trade negotiations. And so I just think it's a personal disposition. They hate this guy. Most of the people I debate with, they hate this guy.
Have you moved anybody?
Have I moved anybody?
Have you moved anybody? A little bit.
On those
anybody's
panels?
like, your friends.
I think I have made points that people say, I hadn't thought of that. But you have to understand, I'm debating people who fundamentally see the world differently
way.
than I
Yeah.
see it. And look, I come from Kentucky. I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm a conservative. They don't come from middle America. They're lifelong liberals. And they also carry and harbor this personal hatred for Trump. And when that sort of colors your thinking about policy, you can see where the debates go.
Rob, can we?
Yes, at the end of the day, Scott Jennings definitely gave a voice to the exhausted majority, the people who love their country, believe in merit, and are tired of being gaslit by activists and influencers who claim to speak for everyone. Now, the woke left has had its shot and it failed, and Scott Jennings is one of the few willing to say it out loud. And that kind of honesty cuts through the noise, and we need more of it, because the longer we let the woke failure drag on,